Hey, Stewart's Chapel. This is Don Pierson and Don Counts, and we're here at my home filming, and this is Friday's devotion. I'm over in chapter 12 of Romans, verse 15. Rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. You know, those things ought to become natural. Somebody shouldn't have to tell you to rejoice with those who rejoice or weep with those who weep. I have found actually that with intimacy, the closer you are with an individual, the easier it is to rejoice with those who rejoice or weep with those who weep. There's a story, this is a true story, it's a funny story. I don't think everybody thought it was funny at the time. I don't even know whether it still goes on. When we first moved to Belize, we literally lived right on the downtown road, main road of San Ignacio, the city of San Ignacio. And our house, the house was elevated and on stilts. And so the house, the road was the main procession area for between the Catholic Church and the cemetery. And so they would come down that road and with those who had died, with the long procession of individuals that were following that procession. They would they drove this station wagon that would carry the casket in it. And the station wagon had a big megaphone or speaker on it that would play this very mournful, grieving music that you could hear long before you could see it. The house across the street from us, they had parrots. I mean, a lot of parrots, mostly yellowheads, but a few blueheads. And I don't know whether you know anything at all about parrots, but yellowhead parrots learn to speak very quickly, a lot quicker than the bluehead, but the blueheads will speak too. But the yellowheads can become very vocal. These parrots had watched and heard that music from the procession of the funeral so many times and had seen it parade by their home so many times and had heard the moaning and the weeping, the grieving of those people in that procession so much that those parrots had learned to cry, learned to weep, and they were loud. I mean, they would start as soon as they heard the music, and they would begin to wail and to grieve, and it got so bad that the family was forced to move the parrots behind the house whenever they would hear the music, and they would just automatically move them. Sometimes they weren't there, but that was part. Even parrots can weep in a funeral. When we were in Costa Rica, we were on a missionary retreat at a very beautiful place down in a valley just below all of the coffee plantations. The whole mountain sides all the way around us was covered with coffee. And there was this river that flowed down through the valley off of those mountains from all the water. There was literally rocks, the granite, solid pink granite that was the size of cars and trucks in this river, and it was just raging. It was a raging place. A young boy parents who were also staying at this retreat center had wandered out onto the rocks, and the rocks were smooth from the water and they were slick, and he fell in. He fell in and was never found. The current was so swift that there was no way to go in and to retrieve him, and he drowned. They never recovered the body. The parents, I remember, And all of us missionaries, we ran out and we're all running up and down the river as fast as we can, trying to find him. Just the parents were just screaming, grieving. And you know what happened? It was the natural thing. We grieved too. The missionaries grieved with this family in the loss of their son. Sometimes I read God's word and I think, now, why did he have to tell us this? Why did he have to tell us to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep? You see, both of those are heart conditions, heart responses. They should be natural. But sometimes we can have a vengeful heart, a sadistic heart, an evil heart. That sometimes when God's favor and riches and blessings are found upon an individual, you and I don't want to rejoice. We can almost become a little bit spiteful. Our words can reveal our hearts. The same thing can be true in the time of grief in someone. Now, I've heard Christians say some of the cruelest things behind the back of those who are grieving because their heart wasn't right. You see, God tells us to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep, because as Christians, that's what we're supposed to do. But sometimes our hearts don't let us. Now, I don't think we ought to be parrots that have learned to rejoice, laugh when others laugh, or cry when others cry. I don't think that's it at all. But I do think that God is telling us, you need to have a different heart than the heart. He gave us a different heart. We have a new heart. And what we do with our mouth and with our eyes and our body should reflect that new heart. How's your heart being reflected in the life of those around you? Love you, Stewart's Chapel.